So I start my recording, and thank you and welcome for inviting me to this lecture. The course is system modeling or something in Estonia at University of Tartu, and Ulrich invited me to tell something or show you something about Fulib and what's recent work. And yeah. Oh, yeah. And masters and all these kinds of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, there's one of the guys dropped off, so we need one more piece to fill up the nines. Otherwise, we cannot really start. This is a little bit big from the resolution. Let's say this one. Okay, great. As I understand, Uli was already showing you this fulib.org page where you can actually have a textual scenario and type something in here. There is a student with, come on, name Alice. And if you say that, you get class diagrams and object diagrams and all these kinds of stuff. Is this working? No. You can have more. There are students, I have no idea. And with name Bob. Is this working? No. There are students. No, that is not working. I'm doing something wrong. You can actually do a lot of modeling stuff here. And what you get is a class diagram, Java implementation of that class diagram, and some test code that creates your object structure as you describe it here. And many of my students use this. However, for some reasons, they really have a hard time to write these sentences down in a correct way. And so most of my students really prefer to do the modeling in a different way. And there is actually a documentation here that says, oh, you can do it in a different way. And I have opened this already. And I would like to enlarge this a little bit. And what you can do is you can declare your classes in Java syntax. And you do this as inner classes. So there is a special class gen model I'm showing to you soon. And there you can actually say, oh, I have a class university. It has a name and it has students, which is a list of students here. And actually, the students will refer back to the university with a link that is called uni or whatever. So here is this student class and the university link. And it says, oh yeah, I'm referring to the university, and the reverse direction is established with the Students Association. what you do is you take all these things here and you put it in a special position, which is somewhere here. No, it's somewhere here, where you have it in your class code. So this is Visual Studio Code. And I was actually just downloading the project from here. You can do this configure export thing here. You put in a lot of details. Choose that you would like to have a Gradle project. And then you say, oh, please export. Then you get a zip folder that you unpack. Yeah. You can see it. Oh, it's so long, so I should be slower. Yeah, probably. Oh, it might help. Yeah, might be. Yeah, or someone, you could do another coin into the internet box so it is running faster. That should do the job. Okay, sorry for that. Let me go there again. If you are at fulib.org, you can actually go for configure or export. It's in the upper corner here, just below my picture. And then you get a dialog. Do you see the dialog? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. You put in a lot of names or you just leave them there. And then you can say, I want to export a project. And you say, I want to export a Gradle project, for example. And if you do so, you could actually do the real export. Can you see the export button? Anybody? Yeah, cool. And it is going to download. Then you open it, unzip it, unpack it. And what you get is a project that you can open in your favorite development environment. This term I'm using Visual Studio Code, but actually it does work better with IntelliJ. However, I have another course I do with TypeScript, and TypeScript goes better with IntelliJ, with Visual Studio Code, and so I do not want to switch between those environments, so I switched to Visual Studio Code recently. Yeah, it's just the same thing. Yeah. So what you get is, if you unpack this, is a build.gradle file, a gitignore file, and if you run that, and it's all in the documentation, you get all the things set up. And then you see there is 3 folders. It's the main folder where your application is going to be implemented, a test folder where your testing code is, and a generate folder. That is the folder where the code generator where Fulib lives. And let's go for this one here. Is this cool? No. Let's go for this one here. It will already contain a GAN model file. And this GAN model file, let me close these ones so that you have this a little bit more tidy. Then already there you could actually do the programming stuff. And usually it will actually have an operation called decorate. It will have your textual scenarios somewhere. It's somewhere here. This is a textual scenario from your project where you could actually write down, I have a university and these kinds of stuff. And everything that you can do in the online version, you can also do here. However, I do not want to do it here. I want to do this thing here. And what you actually do, you add this line of code to your thing, and you get that from the documentation. And then you can declare the classes internally, as I have pointed to recently. And to be honest, my students prefer this thing here because you actually get a lot of do we have courses already? Yeah, let's have a course. You can have completion from your environment a lot. Title, string, title. Yeah, let's have, this is enough. You can see the thing, and then you run Gradle, the Gradle test thing. And this will automatically call the Gradle, the Fulib code generator. And yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm stealing from everywhere, and probably at most from you. Yeah. So what we get is we get yeah. They rather do it this way because well, it's you do not have to fight the textual the tendencies that Fulib is very picky about how to put them down, and you do not need to learn the correct wording of these scenario texts, but you can actually have it in a Java-like notation, and they prefer that a lot, and that's the point that we have. So. Yeah, yeah, I have reserved this for the second half of the lecture today. This, stay tuned. So what we actually get here is the course, the thing I just have added to you, a room, student, university, all these classes that you are familiar with, and all the stuff. You get a class diagram. We can show it here. Let's have it there. That's a large. So university student course, all the stuff you know about, all this code is generated for you, the class diagram is generated for you. You can actually execute that and get object diagrams at one time with another tool, and I probably will show this to you soon. However, it's not yet contained here. Okay. This is basically still the stuff about class diagrams and data models and object-oriented modeling. And it is, well, a little bit old-fashioned. And it's only a certain fraction of your overall program that is covered by the data model and its implementation. So your program will usually have business logic, which is a big block of thing or even more code than the data model. And it will have graphical user interface content and all these kinds of stuff, and persistency mechanisms and data exchange, data import, export, and all these kinds of things, which are not covered by the Fulib parts that I have shown to you that so far. And let me see how what I should do. So we have extended this, and I would show to you a little bit what we do in addition. So we have added something which was inspired by event storming. Did you speak about event storming, Uli? Yeah, you did about event storming. So you have all kinds of nicely colored post-its. And we said, oh, let's pick this up. And especially what we wanted was, so this is a very, very small event storming thing about a click counter. It's the most simple example that I use for introduction to graphical user interface programming all the time. And here we have, and so what we do have is we have special post-its where you can actually do a graphical user interface wireframe or mockup or something like that. It's actually a wireframe. So you see the burger bar up here. So these three things here, so it's a burger menu, and so this is clearly a window, and it's called click counter, and the current time is 12 o'clock and 1 minute, and you have one button here, it's the click me button, which is rendered with these square brackets, and currently it says you have clicked this button 0 times. And as soon as you actually click on this button here, we send a command from the user interface to the backend. And what we will see is a browser-based, HTML-based, simple HTML-based user interface. I will discuss that it would be better to have this with some JavaFX stuff or something like that. And we will may discuss this soon. However, then there is our service or the real business logic component here. And what it does is it looks up a model object of type counter and sets the count attribute to 1. And if I click on that, you see an object diagram down here, which is not that impressive because it's only one object. However, it says 1. And if you go on, so Alice gets a new screen here at 12 o'clock and 2 minutes. And again, and it says, oh, click count is now 1. And then she does, again, a click me. We send another command to our click counter. The click counter changes the data model. And you see there's a 2 now here. And then the screen comes back and says, oh, it's 12:03 now, and the click count is 2. And so what we do have is a scenario how Alice is using our click counter application in multiple steps. And then you see what is the intermediate data model internally, and what is the response from our system that is shown on the screen to Alice. And so therefore, you need these graphical user interface mockups, and you need these things here. So, and finally, you get these things. So how is this? This is the Hello World for event storming and code generation. And we should have a Hello World button here. Yeah, you're right. I should have. Let me find you. Where the description where this comes from. Yeah. And no.
Are you looking for the YAML file?
Yeah, and I'm in the wrong project. Here we are. Chuck. Just another project where I actually did this, and there is this description. So you are not editing this event storming post it's interactively directly, but we have a description, an input language for that, which is actually a YAML description. So it's yet another markup language, and you write down that you have an event storming board for a click counter. You have Alice who is actually doing the clicking. We might actually change this to Bob, and then run the code generation again, and then see that this do something. And then there is a description of a page, which is actually a GUI wireframe. And it says it has the name click counter, it has a button click me, it has a command do count, and it has a label currently click counter is 0. And then you say this command is handled by whom, and in event storming you tell, oh yeah, there is a policy that handles this. And the policy is the click counter object that is actually using. Do not mix it up with this click counter. What you would like to have is that the internal data model changes, becomes this a model object of type counter and an attribute 1, a count that is now 1. You did see Max. Max, could you wave your hand again? Yeah, it's actually his beta thesis. Yeah, it's his fault that it's not yet completed. Yeah. And actually, this is work that, I did during this summer. So it's very recent, and we did not release it. There is a release. Well, come on, it's not yet student ready. You really need to know what to write down here. For example, there needs to be a little A here and a little B here, otherwise it's not working and it's just a bug. Yeah, and these A and B's is just to a workaround for an internal bug that the code generator still have, and so it's not yet ready. If you visit this course next year again, Fulib will have this as an official feature, but not yet this year. So this is. Yeah. Yes. It's brand new, very recent scientific work, research project, and actually we do have the very first paper on this, which is from monolithic models to agile models, which is written by Albert Zündorf, Ulrich Norbesrath, and some other people, Adam Malik. You have had Adam in your course? Not this time, okay. Yeah, and there is actually this idea you should start with some event storming and do a lot of things about that, and then you do add some more details on data description to this, and then you do some grouping. Can you see that? It's still, yeah. Then you do some grouping of this, and then you split it into microservices, and this is being the next section today. But I'll show you soon. But this thing, and this is a paper we have just sent to Modelswart, which is a major European conference. It's an international conference after all, on modeling. There are actually two. There's the Models Conference, who is closer to UML, and the Models Wart Conference, which is more open to other stuff. And so the conference is going to be in February, I think. I have no idea. It's soon. So the paper has just been accepted. It's not yet published. And so this is very brand new, recent science, up to date, cutting edge, and yeah, that might be a good idea. So the people here is Sebastian, who is actually a PhD student of mine, who is doing work in microservices after all, and I'm explaining what this is soon in the next 20 minutes. Christoph Eickhoff, another guy who is using microservices to run festivals, rock festivals. Then there's Adam Malik, who is using event storming in industry for medical projects. Natasha Nolter did her master on this, is now a PhD student of mine, and she did a lot of code generation for using Kafka. Do you know Kafka, you guys? Yeah, the one was putting up his thumb. And then there's this famous Ulrich Norbesrath, who is contributing a lot. Then there is Jonas Sorgala, who is a PhD student at University of Applied Science in Dortmund, where we have a strong collaboration on microservices with. There is Jens Weber, who is a good fellow from former times. He's now at University of Victoria, Canada. And he's doing a lot of medical stuff and was very interested in this work, and myself. So, hey, I just wanted to be a little bit showing off with this paper. on that paper, yeah. 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 So, this is the Get model class. I have renamed it because I have multiple in this project here. And this is some weird stuff that you need to do in order to get the click counter ES YAML to be read and to have code generated from that one. I have just run that and let me check whether this worked. I just do a reload here and now it says, Bob, hey, seems to work. Great. So it's live hacking and all these kinds of stuff. So and let's have a short look for what we actually get from this. And we close everything here. We go for source. We go for main. We go for Jabber. We go for...
Do you want to see what was generated?
Yeah.
You have to go into
I go for test, I go for source, I go for main, I go for Java. It's very complicated. It's not yet student ready. It's not yet even. Yeah, but that is the reason why Max is sitting there, and he's doing. He's a big help here. And there's the click counter, and that is a little bit disappointing. Here it is. That is all the code you get from this. There is a builder class and some business logic class and some stuff. You get a class diagram, of course, which is very boring because it's basically one class. Come on. There's some extra classes here. And here is a counter, actually, that is a class that belongs to the data model that has been generated from the sim. The other stuff is, well, extra things that we generate. We generate a test, which is awfully complex. And let me just execute the test, and then I go into what this is actually doing soon. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Well, I have the theory it's also about your age. Sorry for that. Only because when you are getting elder, your eyes are becoming less sharp, and it's easier to look on a widescreen because then your pupils are narrowing, and you can see sharper than on a dark screen. Yeah. So it's if you are becoming elder and your glasses are not working very well any longer, then switch to a light seam. Yeah. So what you see here is Selenite or Selenium graphical user interface test environment for web pages. And that one was actually executed by our thing. And actually the code that is generated from the scenario, the YAML description, is working, and if you execute it, you get an HTML page, and you actually can click on this, and it says 1, and you can click again, and it says 2, click again, and it says 3, and click again, and you are done. And this is basically a slideshow. It's a paper prototype. It's not really functional, but you might use this as a starting point, but still it's not yet really there. Let's just for the fun execute it again, and you look at it. I hope you can actually see that. There should be a page coming up soon. Here it comes. And there it clicks automatically, it shows something internal, it runs through the whole scenario, executes all the steps, checks whether it works as specified, and closes, and then you are done. And then you can use actually this test as a starting point for test-driven or scenario-driven software development. So you can now actually put some functionality behind this click button and then come up to something which is more complex and more interesting. Yeah, that's not that easy. So you have to go for the click counter service. That is where it actually lives. And then there should be an operation which is called get page. Here it is, where URL with a page and an ID are going to be answered to. So it's actually a web server you are programming with a Java Spark as the web server engine. And you know that? Yeah, you are using that. And the get page request is that one that actually says this. And if you do not put some code here yourself, you fall back to the demo page, and here is where actually the whole action lives currently. And here is where the HTML code is, the HTML pages are generated from the mockups. And this is all code that has been generated from the YAML file. Yeah. Yeah. The Selenite is a test environment for web pages. And you can say something like, please open the browser at this thing, then find a button with the ID, click me, and then do a click on that. So it's a bot that is hacking on your website or your web page. Yeah. Yeah. So this Selenite test is actually doing mouse clicks 3 times, which is actually what is our. So let's have the list here. So it says, my scenario says, oh, please click on this button, and that is what the Selenite thing does. That's it. Yeah, it's a lot of magic behind the scenes. However, it's not that hard to actually do this. If you have some experience with code generation, I have courses teaching you this. And if you would like to come over, you could do your thesis on this kind of work. And you could actually enhance this code generation stuff a lot and work upon the work done currently by Max and go on this and work with Sebastian and all these people. Oh. There is this a bunch of master courses which and I'm not really one of these is covering this issue, which is actually called model-driven engineering. That guy that code does this. Okay. Oh, sorry for being so noisy. So, this is not that interesting. And we have a much more interesting example, which is this thing here. So what we actually do, and now this is the second half of the lecture, where it comes even more future stuff. And these stuff, what this paper was about that I have shown to you. And this is about microservices. Do you cover microservices, Uli? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the thing is currently many enterprises are running on SAP. Who knows SAP? So this enterprise resource planning software that is, yeah, yeah. So let's have me in a big screen again. So the problem with these SAP systems is that it is one big central system for your whole enterprise. So our university runs on SAP, and the university has one big common data model for all parts of the university. And the SAP system has BPMN models running on this, and they all have this common database beneath it. And the problem with this is scaling and complexity. So the internal data model of this SAP system tends to become really large and crowded and a real software engineering maintenance problem. And the point here is, for example, the table or the class for students at University of Kassel has something like 400 or 500 attributes to it, or fields or columns or whatever you say. And this is very hard to maintain. And the reason for that is that there are different parts of the university that have really different ideas about the student. So there is the central administration of our university, where a student has an ID, a name, and a banking account so that we can withdraw his money or her money. And they have records about did he pay or did she pay this term her fees, and is she allowed to enter the university at all. And then there is the department on computer science, where they say, oh, I'm not really interested in the payments thing about student. However, here is the course program for students of computer science. And this student, Alice, did she already have the basic math course? Did she cover or get through introduction to programming and these kinds of stuff? And they have data records corresponding to this. And it's all in this single students table. And then there is this other department on business education. And those have other courses and other things to be covered. And therefore, there is another 30 columns or 50 columns or 100 columns for business students. And there are these 50 columns for computer science students, and so on and so on. And then you end up with the large number of courses you of programs you have at your university, with a very, very, very big table for each single student, where one row represents one student and his progress. However, each of these students only uses a very small part, a fraction of all these columns. And the others are there for later use or whatever. And this becomes a major maintenance problem. And therefore, the microservice idea for why do we have only one big application at our university? Why don't we have one application for central administration and payment, and one for computer science, and a completely different one for business education? So that's basically the idea, and I go switch back to my slide here. And actually, I do not yet have the example for university administration and computer science and business education ready, but I use another example which is very common, which is you have an online shop, which is living here on the right side, and you have a warehouse where the actual goods are stored. And as soon as someone does something, places an order, for example, it's Zalando and you are ordering some shoes. Do you have Zalando at Tartu? Yeah. Yeah, so let's have. So it might be Amazon, and you can actually order some good here. And then it's actually, there are multiple warehouses, but for example, here it's only one warehouse where they actually have piles of stuff on the floor. And actually then there is some guy working at this warehouse who is actually then picking up your parcel, your box, put your name tag on it, and pays the transportation fee, and then put it in the post box that it's sent to you and give it to delivery. And because these are very different user groups, so your shop has a certain set of users that is doing the ordering or offering products, ordering products and these kinds of stuff. And there are quite different people working in the warehouse who do send out the data and have all the stock management that needs to be done. So we decided, it might be nice to actually split our application into two applications. So we have one program that runs the warehouse and one program that runs the online shop. And the advantage of this is that you can actually, do maintenance on these tools independently. If you have a patch or a security patch, for example, for the warehouse software, you can shut down the warehouse server, put in the fix and redeploy and restart, and you might be down for 5 minutes or something like that, or 10 minutes. And if you do it at night for the warehouse or in a lunch break time, that's not a big problem for your warehouse. However, if you switch down Amazon for 10 minutes, that might be a big problem. So you do not want to switch down the shop just in order to put a patch into your warehouse software. And therefore it's a good reason to split these two apart and say, oh yeah, I have independent programs running on different computers, and that should actually do the job. The problem here is now that you need to, these two programs need to collaborate. So there is an order coming in here, or there's a pallet of shoes coming in here. The warehouse puts it somewhere in its store, and then it tells the shop, hey, we could actually now sell some 100 shoes. And then they put an offer into the web page, and then there's some customer who is actually buying a pair of shoes, sending this order to the shop, and then the shop actually sends the task to the warehouse, where the warehouse then actually picks up the box and sends it to Alice, for example. So there is some collaboration between those two. And actually, there is a lot of discussion going on in science how to actually split a big program into multiple microservices. And what is a good idea how you might do that? And actually, the book to read is Chris Richardson's on microservice patterns. And Chris Richardson actually was telling us that, oh yeah, you have this class diagram for your data model, and you may cut through this class diagram. And then you have different class models or different programs, different microservices, and you put this part of your class model there and that the other half to the right. And yeah, I don't like this idea at all. So I think this is a really big mistake by Chris Richardson. You should never do that in this way. The point that Chris has is, oh, well, if you cut through your data model this way, you do not have redundant copy of data. You just cut through some associations, and you have cross-references from one service to the other. It's cool if you want to navigate through such a link, and you actually go from one service to the other, and this defines how those services are going and working together. However, we believe it's the wrong kind of splitting up responsibility. And the plus point of Richardson's approach is you avoid data redundancy a lot, and that helps to avoid a lot of nasty problems on this kind of stuff. However, we say, no, that's not a good idea. You should actually split along of a workflow. So let's have a look at a workflow. It should be actually, no, it's here, isn't it? Here. I just put it very small. I have a, yeah. Yeah, he does that. Yeah, but he, he says there you have one modeling class, for example, product or order or something like that, and then you have order service, which is a service who does all the business logic dealing with orders, payment, these kinds of stuff, computing the prices, taxes, and these kinds of stuff. And yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. It actually restricts what your business logic can do to a single class or to a small fraction of your overall class diagram. And a lot of business logic is going across these, and therefore it's probably not a good idea. And that's actually the point here. So what we said, come up with a business process for the whole system and do this with event storming. And we are back to event storming. And this is in the upper half, very small event storming for a shop and warehouse example. And I will now zoom into that, but you see it's not that small. It's actually even going down here. And so let's go into this, and I go make this large so that you can reach that. And we have the same notation. Behind the scene, it's again YAML syntax, and from the YAML we generate this HTML page and some Java code we are going to see soon. And here we have, it starts with the warehouse. We have Peter Picker, who opens the warehouse page. And there he has two buttons. He can say, I would like to store some new product in my warehouse, or I would like to handle some picking tasks to send some good to my customers. And so we first go for a store task. And so we go for the new page here, which is warehouse pallets. And this one is actually showing you a list of all the pallets that you have in your warehouse, all those products or goods or delivery that has been stored in the warehouse. And this one is currently empty because we are just at the start of our scenario. And so we click add to add a new pallet to our system. So we get a new page where we can store a new pallet. If it is underlined, it says you are an input field. And so we have an input field for the barcode of the pallet, for the product name, for the amount of boxes on that pallet, and where we did store it. And then we press OK. And this creates a command that is sent to our warehouse. Okay? And then the warehouse actually says, okay, I have a pallet. And let's even go. Can you see it down here? That's a little bit hard to read. It says I have a pallet and I have a warehouse product for red shoes and these kinds of stuff here. And this is the object model that is created by executing this information up here. And then when we did this, the warehouse sends up an event. So it's an orange sticker because this is an event between two services. And it says, oh, there is a new product. Delivery, red shoes, 10 boxes. It has the barcode B011. B01. And then there's a second service. So this is the second microservice. This is the microshop. And the microshop then says, oh, that's cool to know. I put this into my database. Okay, my database. So why my database? This is yeah. Yeah. So in Kassel, we have an enterprise called Plenty Markets. And Plenty Markets is actually the major provider for shops, for online shops that may be attached to Amazon. So if you would like to sell something on the internet and you would like to be one of the vendors that is attached to Amazon, then you go to Plenty Market. And actually, the Plenty Market people have the big advantage that in addition to putting your shop online, they also run your warehouse for you. So they actually set up a server for your warehouse, and they sell you some hundred barcode readers, and then all the logistics done to handle the orders are run on their software too. And you can order that from them, and they run it for you in the cloud. And they are the European or the international market leader on online shops for Amazon. Oh yeah, it's one of my students. Yet another thing. And actually, I was stealing the example from them. So they are not yet. And so I did this summer, and Plenty Markets is up and running for 10 years now. And so I just took their example and saw that, oh yeah, their unique selling point is you do not just get something sold on the internet, but we also provide you with software for handling the sending out the logistics. It's Plenty for many markets. Let's have a look. Here we are online here. Plenty Markets. It's one of the bigger software companies in Kassel. So actually, Kassel has about 5 very big software companies, Plenty Markets, and then there's Micromata, which is actually running the DHL postal services or the websites for that. And well, there's Yatta and more of these. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm telling my students, so I'm teaching computer science here in Kassel University since 2002, for almost 20 years now. And so we have some 50 students per year that are finishing. This is multiplied by 20. It's 1,000 of software developer that have been gone through the Fulib courses, and they are mostly still in the region. So if I go to the different enterprises around in Kassel, I find a lot of former students of mine. And so, yeah, I have some influence in the area. And we were also founding some enterprises. So Yatter Solutions is an enterprise founded by people of my group. And let's have a look at that one. They were pure modeling company and do a lot of. Oh, this is Carsten, who is a student of mine. Manuel and Frederick. He's actually a foreigner. He came from other center, but he's not actually a computer scientist. He's a business guy, and yeah. Is this read anything? No, it's not. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but to be honest, on is food abuse in industry? Well, the Yatta people actually use a similar thing, but they actually have their own tool. It's a UML lab that has been developed along this, and it's class diagram tool, and you can generate code much in the way that Fulib does it. And you can actually buy this, and they have raising numbers on selling this thing here recently. However, in industry, on the project that Yatta is actually working on, the part that does the object-oriented data modeling is about 5 or 10% of the overall effort. And you do it on the early stages, and then you never revisit it because the model usually works for a very long time very well. And then you do a lot of other stuff concerning concurrency and these kinds of databases and these kinds of stuff and user interfaces. And the major software development effort is not into object models, but into the other stuffs. And then even if you use a tool like Fulib, then you use it only for a fraction of your work. So that is not a major impact. However, the object-oriented data models are living in a lot of programs around in Kassel, the Kassel area. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's down there. I've actually put it here just in front of the lecture today because I wanted to show it to you. And we come back to the discussion we have had about Richardson, who came up with this other idea for microservices, which I think is not going to work, and the point that we do have. And I wanted to come back to, so what we do is an event storming of the overall system. And then we go back for, I have to show that one again. Now let's have this one first. So the problem is if you cut one program into two parts, into two programs, and call those programs microservices, then you have a problem that those two programs need to collaborate with each other. And one major problem here is that they have a database here for the warehouse and a database for the shop here. And those databases may contain overlapping content. For example, you have shoes in your warehouse and you believe you have still 100 boxes, and you tell the shop, yeah, there is 100 boxes. And while you do so, the shop has a lot of orders coming in for new shoes. And so the shop service says, okay, the warehouse says there's about 100. I have 99 orders by now. So is one left or not or yet? And this is quite a timing issue. So if the order goes over here and the warehouse says, okay, here's an order to be delivered, I pick a box and put it in the post box and send it out. So I have only 99 of those left. I should tell the shop there's only 99 left. And so there are things concurrently running, and it's awfully complicated to have a consistent view between these two programs on how many shoes do we still have. That's really hard. And you need to, well, think through this very, very slowly to get this doing. And we were, well, thinking about it either, and we're saying, oh, how could we do it? The Richardson approach would be, yeah, there should be one service, one program that is solely responsible for the number of shoes that we have currently. And the warehouse, anytime it takes a box and sends it out, tells this central service on shoes, oh, there's one box gone. And the shop, anytime it sells a pair of shoes, it tells the central service there's one that still needs to be sent out. And so that's the way they do this. And then you end up with very small services that do very little, and I don't think that's a good idea. And our idea is to follow the idea of Bardolini with the event storming, and do an event storming first. Come on. And then you get all these huge amount of post-its. And when you have these huge amounts of post-its, you actually could go on and say, okay, so Brandolini is telling you, you have some 40, 50 people in your room who is actually doing this huge wall of stickies, of sticky notes. And then you see, oh, during the course of the day, those people tend to group up. You will see one group that is dealing with the warehouse content, and there's another group that is dealing with the online shop thing. And then you see, oh, there are two groups. And then what you actually can do is you group your events, your whole event storming into so-called bounded contexts. And I have only this picture here. Where you actually says, okay, this is things that are corresponding, are activities within the warehouse, and these are things living or that are activities within the shop, and these are events between those two. And then you do that. That gives you a good idea on how to split a single program into multiple programs. You look for which are parts of my workflow, it's my business process model, which are closely connected and that should be grouped in a single program, and which are other parts, and which are the messages that are corresponding between those two. And then we go along this idea for splitting responsibilities between the two microservices. If you do that, then you will come up with overlapping data models. However, and this is the big point here, and it is actually the content of the paper that we were just publishing, because you have this workflow. Once upon a time, such workflows have been executed by people with paper sheets. And then were actually, if a new pallet with shoes was coming in, there was a sheet of paper that was sent from the warehouse to the administration people. and then they got, oh yeah, I put the offer in on a wallpaper, and then there were orders coming in via mail, snail mail, and these kinds of stuff. And so to have an idea how many shoes do we still have, this paper-based workflow had a very clear idea at which point in time or which working step in my workflow is allowed to change the number of still available products. In which way, such that there is no concurrency issues between these activities in the shop and in the warehouse. And therefore, if you come from a workflow perspective, splitting up the workflow into multiple programs, it gives each of the programs a clear responsibility for certain steps and for doing changes to the amount of products that we still have during, as long as this process is still in their responsibility. Then they hand it over to the other program, and then the other program does changes to this. And then it's pretty clear, and all the concurrency issues that you are discussing in database design, in operating system design, they vanish. They are just gone because your workflow description already ensures that there are no two people that do conflicting changes to your data, because they were not able to do it when they were doing the workflow on paper, and so they will do it now. And this is a hypothesis which needs to be proven, and so we need theses, master students and PhD students that do larger case studies on different areas to prove this point. So you are happily invited to do this in the next time, in the time coming up. So if you have time next week, would be great. And that is the current issue. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was pretty much the point I wanted to make. And yeah, it's here. We should have. I let this one running to stop it. There should be another test here on. Oh, I have the workflow I was showing to you. Of course, we have generated code from that, and I can show you that, of course. And that one is this one, and it should work here. And there's still this question on the event broker, and I did not forget that it's coming up soon. Yeah, sorry, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, this is I'm not that familiar with VS Code these days, and I fight a lot of small issues here still. That should now start. And then what you actually will see is that you run through this scenario. There's a new palette added, and this is the internal state, and the second palette is added, internal state, a third palette is added, internal state, we do make an offer, we make another offer, there is red shoes has been ordered, and then it's picked, and it's delivered, and we are done. And we were running through the whole scenario. And with this test, which has something of 600 lines of code, and do all this stuff. And just a little bit more on this one here. This is when a second pair of shoes comes, or second palette with shoes comes. And this is now 18 available here. This is when blue jeans come, so another palette with jeans, and this is another product in here. And then we go for Sabine Sales, who puts a price to the shoes. Here the shoes have 42, the blue jeans not yet. Here comes the price for the jeans. And here comes an order. So there is Kali customer. Here, Kali customer, who's a customer who does an order to send some pair of shoes to Wonderland 1 where she lives. Then this is handed over to the shop, to the warehouse service. And the warehouse service still has the pallets here with red shoes, pallets with jeans. And now there is this picking task. Could you please send a box of shoes to a Kali customer in Wonderland 1? And yeah. And then is Peter Picker, who is actually doing this and says, yeah, I take a box from that pallet. So the pallet has no longer 10, but only 9 shoes on it any longer. And I'm now in the stage shipping down here. And then there comes Dora Delivery, the delivery hero. And she actually takes this information that there should be an order to be delivered. And then it actually says, yeah, I did this. I handed over to Alice. And so this is actually done. And finally, the Microsoft says it's delivered. That's here. The state of the order is delivered, so we can actually now remove it. And that's it. Yeah, that's basically the whole story we're going to. And the test we're running through this, and we could actually go back to the very start of this and have a look at this. So go through the browser history. And we're starting with this warehouse store task pick task. We go for the store task. We do an add. And it says some data here. I just do a shorthand and it says, oh yes, there is shoes, a pallet of shoes on I can actually enlarge this. Oh, great. Add another thing here, and this is B2. And then we have red shoes there, and then add B3 and go here. So you get this kinds of paper prototype that you can actually discuss the scenario with your customer and see that this is what you would wanted to have and these kinds of stuff. So then please. Yeah. So the idea is, yeah, I have a paper for that, which is actually to be somewhere here after all. Here it is. No, it's actually all your ideas. This is a workflow description of the software development process. So how should I work actually? And it says you do some work on the top line, which is basically you do an event storming, and you would do that with your customer. And to get an ideas of what is the current state of all the processes within this enterprise. And then you follow all these ideas of Brandolini, who says, okay, during this discussion, you will find some grouping of events, and you will also find some areas of the whole process where the problem lives, that is not working correctly these days. And then you should actually say, okay, let's have work first on this cutout of our overall wallpaper and do some design, some parts. And then you would actually refine this cutout of the overall workflow. And there you would actually add more design details. So what is actually the data that you would like to add to the messages that you send around. And this is an important point in comparison to business process models. If you have business process models, it's just orange tickets and no data content. It just says, here's a step, here's a step, here's a decision, but I don't show you the data that you use for that decision, and then you go either here or here, and then these things happen, and here you wait for all the sub-processes to complete, and then you go on. And Brandolini had this good idea to say, oh no, that's not a good point. Actually, if there is a decision to make, then please have a green sticker telling you, green note, that tells you all the data that is needed to make this decision. And if you do a decision, how do you actually tell the system go that way? So what are the parameters that you are sending around? What are the values in these kinds of stuff? And then you do actually data modeling or message modeling or whatever. And we have had the experience that if you have a real world customer who is probably an administrative guy or a business guy, if you show them a class diagram, that is of no help at all. If you show them an object diagram, this is of very little help because they cannot actually read them, these things. So the idea that we are doing now in the work of Max is show them a table or an HTML view or something which is a user interface with the cutoff of information that is necessary to do the decision here. And when they actually issue a command and fill in data, then show the result of that as a toast or something, as a screen where they can see, oh, this is now our internal state, or this is the data that you just have entered. And now based on this data, this is the next step that I'm going to execute. And that's actually the thing that we would like to have. And actually, well, filling in these data details is a requirements analysis or design activity to be done by computer people. I don't think that business people are able to do that. And then again, computer people come up with wireframes and this is the result of this activity. And to show that to the business people, and business people can actually read these wireframes, the graphical user interface mockups, and they can actually deal with it. And as soon as you show them, and this is how you'll use the system, and this is information we got from Adam. Adam Malik was actually discussing these things with us and says, yeah, don't show object diagrams. No, don't show them YAML data. No. Oh, I like this user interface mockup. Give me more of those. And then you actually can go and start discussing with your customer. And they really know, these customers know their business. They know the process. And if you come up with a form for 5 data entries to make, they will instantly say, no, there's one field missing. You also need that price or that number or that date or this piece of information in this step. And they are pretty happy with this event storming wall. They can actually go with that. And then you actually say, okay, we are on this corner of the wall, and this is the step how I would like the system look like. And they say, no. There's this thing missing for this current step. They can say this to you instantly. And that is the way that we would actually like to collaborate with customers. And then you would refine your analysis, add more things to your wireframes, and then you generate code from that and have prototypes to show. And once you have said, okay, this is how it should work, then you would go for a professional implementation of the whole thing. And so I'm a software engineer. I want to serve the developers. So Yeah, yeah. The big problem still is, as a software developer, you finally have to deliver functionality that the customer, the business people really would like to use. And in our project, we had the experiences that we did some of these projects. For that, it's absolutely necessary that the software developers actually speak to the end user, to the people who are finally sitting in front of their screen and doing that. If you just speak to some manager of the customer enterprise who tells, I want this, and you develop it just like the manager tells you, and then it hits the administrative guy who's actually telling you to use it. In the real moment where it comes to production, where the software shall be used the very first time, this guy is going to tell you, no, this is unusable because I cannot enter this information. It's absolutely crap, go away. And they are not going to use it, for sure. So, sorry, you software people, I cannot save you or rescue you from talking to real world people. Sorry, it's not just living in the lab and have fun, but you need to go out there in the real world. And then you need to talk to people who do not understand computers. And so the idea here is actually to give you means, a notation, or helpful things that enable you to actually talk to, well, business people, to administrative people, to real people, to people that live in the real world. And that's a hard thing. So, well, our book, Ulrich, is all about, if you talk to real people, use examples instead of class diagrams. And this still is the same idea. Just use examples and show them how this system is working. And so the upper half is something that you would show to your customer. And the lower part here is for the software developers, that they get an idea how it works internally. Okay, that's pretty much it. Where do you get these questions from? I don't see them. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there is a way to avoid this from happening. So the Fulib code generator is incremental, if you like it. And we are very, very proud of it. So if you have manual code and then you generate for the same class some content, the code generator will look for, okay, my class model says there is an attribute name, so there should be a get name and a set name operation. And if these operations are not yet there, they are just added to the class. If they are already there, they are usually overwritten, and the same holds for the toString method. So Fulib says, okay, if you have some data, it would be nice to have a toString method, and this is how it should look like. If you want to change one of the operations or some piece of code that is generated by Fulib, and you do want to avoid it, that Fulib regenerates this, then you put, let's have it here. what you just do is somewhere in the method, perhaps at the very beginning, you put a no Fulib comment in there, and then Fulib says, okay, it's no longer my business. You say you don't want me to touch it, I leave my fingers off it. And then you are done. So put a no Fulib into your toString and change the body as much as you like. Is that an answer? No, it's in the documentation. Read the fucking documentation. Yeah. So yeah, that's a trick here. So if you put a new Fulib here, it's no longer generated. Sorry. Let me give it a try. Let's do word count */*star.java. This project has about, come on, 1,400,000 words, but it's some 50,000 lines of code. And I would say there's at most some 500 lines of code that are handwritten. All the other thing is generated by from these YAML files. Yeah, it's still 20,000 lines in Python. Come on. And so when I was younger, or the two of us were younger, the central argument that we always bring is you have this amount of input, and this is the amount of output you get, and it's 10 or 20 or 100 times larger. And writing one line of YAML is the same effort as writing one line of Java or Python, and so this is the amount of effort that you save. Hey, full stop. So it's a good idea. We have a lot of discussions on that recently in our group, and actually Sebastian says, Albert, this is bullshit. So the code that I write from hand is quite different than the code that you are generating. We didn't say something about the event broker. Sorry for that. So yeah. Sorry. How could we actually miss that one? Yeah. Event broker. To have two programs that communicate with each other, nowadays you would put a Kafka in the middle. And Kafka is actually, the point is that warehouse is down, shop wants to send an order to the warehouse, and then, ooh, shit, and message is lost. That's bad. So you use a middleware, which is some kind of event broker, where you send this message through. And actually you hand over the message to Kafka or MQTT or what is this? RabbitMQ or whatever the is your favorite thing, AMQ. And then the other program, when it comes up again, it fetches the message from that message broker, and you get it. And so the message broker is actually responsible for buffering messages until it is able to deliver it to the end user. And these message brokers are really reliable and very good piece of software, and you should actually always use some kind of bulletproof, battleproof event broking software as a middleware if your programs communicate, and it facilitates your job very, very much for industrial purposes. Yeah, and all these kinds. So it has a lot of advantages. On the downside, setting up a Kafka is quite a nightmare. And actually, I have a course on that. It's called DevOps Technologies. It's a master course where we a whole course, a whole term, teach our students how to set up a Kubernetes cluster in the cloud with a Kafka in the middle and these kinds of stuff. And to distribute it, replicable Mongo database, and you name it. And this is so awfully complex that for simple testing purposes, I just use my own event broker. I just have implemented it myself. It's not bulletproof, it doesn't work. It doesn't have persistency even. However, it is generated by my code generator. And so you do not bother with this. And then it's easy to have these communications things. That's it. So nothing. Yeah. No, it's not that big one. It's 200 lines of code in the event broker. Yeah. And it's just yeah, but then you need to set up something like that. And actually, if you want to test it on your laptop at home or your PC at home, then the number of things that you have to install and run on Docker and these kinds of stuff, it increases over and over and over. And it's yeah, Fulib comes with an event broker. Yeah, that's come on, that's a piece of cake. Sorry? Yeah, a lot. I'm the wrong guy to ask. I have been my whole life at university. I have no idea on practical work. I have no idea. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the quality of the coffee is most important. So it's not the amount, but the quality increases over time. Um, So yeah, we are my group has its own lab, and in the lab we have the best coffee maker of the whole department, if not the whole university. And it's actually Siebträger. I have no idea what the English word for this is. Semi-automatic, major or professional Italian coffee maker. And actually, it's not just the maker. What you really need is put some more money into the beans. If you put about not the very cheap one, but double the price, you get really decent coffee, and that's what you need to become a professor. Yeah, that's the only thing that works. I'm more on the espresso side. Yeah, I have been on the latte side for a long time, but I gained some weight recently, and so I'm now on the espresso side. Yeah. Ah, damn it. Ah, cool. Ja, for soon. Yeah. Yeah. So there are a lot of theses coming up with this down the road. With this microservice area, we have a strong collaboration with University of Dortmund, who does a lot of things there, and we would be happy to have some of you students, for example, as an Erasmus student for half a year, come and visit over and then do your thesis here. It would be great. And perhaps, yeah, and perhaps Ulrich, I will send some of my students to you. I need some with my logo on it. Yeah, you can have a T-shirt with my logo on it. Yeah, yeah. You should read Bob's book anyhow. Yeah. Okay, guys, I have another appointment at 3 o'clock. Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to visit Tartu next summer somehow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah, and there are more papers to be written. Bye. Bye.